Hey, everybody, and welcome to this week's episode of The Influence Gap. This is the space between a leader's desire and intention and the impact that they want to make out there in the world and within their business with their teams. And today's guest, Karen Gately, is the perfect person for us to be speaking with today. Karen is a third Dan black belt. Like, she is a true sensei in the true sense of the word. And so Karen has been working as a leadership expert, a consultant, a confidant to CEOs for years. And she's going to share some of her insights with us. And most importantly, as a business sensei, she's going to help you to navigate some of the challenges you have in order to get the results that matter the most. And more importantly, help you to lead with more clarity and more purpose. So it's my absolute pleasure to introduce you today to Karen Gately, Sensei of the Corporate Dojo. Hey, this is Bernadette McClelland, and welcome to The Influence Gap. This is the show where leaders come to close the gap between intention and impact so that they can have the right conversations, make the right decisions, and achieve the results that matter the most. Karen Gately, welcome to The Influence Gap.
Thank you. It's great to be here.
I was wondering, our paths have crossed so many different ways. And I was trying to think, when did we first meet? Because I was on your Ticker TV.
Yes, you were.
It wasn't through the CEO Institute.
No.
It wasn't through Thought Leaders. Shout out to Matt Church in Sydney. Was it actually before?
It was. It was Matt Church's Thought Leader. We were in something like North Melbourne or Northcote or somewhere along there, and we had an all-day session, and you were our table buddy, along with Siobhan and I were at the course, and you were there with us.
That's right. Well, we're friends as well. I follow you naturally as a leader in the world of leadership. This has got nothing to do with what we're talking about, but you and Kevin, your husband, came over for dinner one night.
Right at
the very last minute, you ring and say, "I don't eat meat."
Oh.
And I'm like,
I'm sorry.
How do you cook fish?
I had no idea I'd done that to you. I'm so sorry.
That's okay. We had a really big giggle. I thought when you went home, and I said to Tim, "Oh my gosh, she's probably going to say that just tasted like the most rubbery.
No.
What did I say? Flip flop."
No, you're wrong. I only have very, very fond memories of that evening, and I think I would have remembered if you made me feel ill.
No, it's great to have you on the show. And
thank you.
And so what I would love for the thread of this show to be today is to really lean into your leadership expertise, but to do it from a different kind of angle. Like, I've got a body of work at the moment, my book, there's this whole IP around the premise that sales does not equal revenue, and the 5 leadership decisions that do. So whilst I come from the boardroom angle, you come from the dojo angle. And so I want to delve into that, because where I say sales does not equal revenue, I'm wondering if your thinking is someone's title doesn't necessarily equal their level of influence.
Absolutely. Or their capability.
So I'd love to explore that thought with you. But before we do that, can you just share with the listeners your journey? I know you had Ryan Gately was your consultancy, and then you transitioned into the corporate dojo, which I love. Can you just share that journey?
Sure. So as you pointed out, we started off life as Ryan Gately, which was essentially, when we launched, the goal was to be the outsourced HR department and to give advice and guidance to leaders that didn't have that capability internally. And then off we went. We were about 8 9 years into the business, and I started to feel like I wanted our brand to speak more directly to what we really do. And so went on a whole journey, as you do, to think about what should this business be called. Now, I had previously to this written a book called The Corporate Dojo. So I went and paid a lot of money to a marketing agency who did all of this great work, and then came back and announced that their recommendation was that the business is called The Corporate Dojo. Excellent. It was literally right there in front of my face, but credit where it's due, they were able to see the really clear link. And that is, I grew up as a martial artist. So I spent over 25 years teaching, training, competing in the world of karate. And what I hadn't fully appreciated was being a sensei and growing up in that environment. It had a profound impact on my approach as an HR professional and how I influence leaders to have impact and to have influence. You know, in the dojo, my job is to teach you to survive if your life is under threat. And in order for you to survive, you need capability. You need to be able to kick and punch and elbow strike or headbutt, whatever the particular thing is. But arguably, even more importantly, you need character strength. You need to be able to focus. You need to be able to choose in the moment the mindset and the behavior that's going to allow you to effectively apply your capability. And so what I started to realize was exactly the same is true in the world of business. You know, as you pointed out, Bernadette, you know, someone can have the title, they can have the position. It doesn't always mean that they have the capability even. So obviously that's a priority to build that capability. But what I observe most often undermining a leader's impact and effectiveness is the mindset and behavior piece. So, you know, with that clear link in our own minds, we decided let's lean right into that messaging. You know, how do we as leaders show up and operate in order to ultimately enable the individual, the team, the organization to thrive? So yeah, that's how we've landed in Corporate Dojo. And what I found really entertaining was so many of our clients who'd worked with us for, you know, the previous 8-9 years, their overwhelming reaction was, oh, it makes sense. And many of them didn't even know that I had a martial arts background. But again, that common commentary was, you behave like you're my sensei.
Interesting.
Yeah.
So when you, just to, I guess for the uninitiated, when you say sensei, a sensei is
the teacher.
Teacher inside the dojo. So, and karate was your discipline. I'm
correct.
Obviously assuming there. So if karate is a discipline that trains you to perform under pressure and not panic, we've got leaders out there today that in the world of sales and revenue growth that aren't making the numbers, that are under scrutiny, they're trying to hang on to top talent. I mean, it is a really, really tough market out there, and stress levels are sky high. Yeah, they are not going to take up karate.
No,
so well, not necessarily. Some might. But what do you think that the equivalent discipline would be, I guess, for them when the numbers aren't being made and when kind of things are slipping and they're under scrutiny and people are looking at them?
Look, I think the simple answer is that self-management is a seriously underrated capability, right? So what does that mean? Even on the most basic level, having the ability to influence your own mood. You know, so many of us just operate in life, just whatever our mood is, and then we go from there. But our capacity to observe our own thinking, you know, that metacognition where we can actually observe what are the stories I'm telling myself, to understand what impact is that having on the strength of my spirit. So I'm a passionate believer that there's a strong correlation between the strength of the human spirit and the commercial outcomes that we ultimately create.
Absolutely.
Right? So how do I manage my own spirit, which again I define as what is the strength of positive energy that you have in reserve, and what is the strength of your mindsets and your capacity to choose your attitude. Right? Again, we've all been told this for a long time, that choosing our attitude is important and is in our power.
It is. Yeah. Sorry, keep going.
So, if I'm a business development, sales, distribution leader, then the market that we're operating in, the circumstances of the business, our client base, all of that stuff is coming at us, right? It's the environment, it's the context within which we're operating. We can't always directly control those external factors. What we can control is how we and our team show up. So if you as a leader are thinking to yourself, oh my God, this is awful, I can't get the results, we're not going to win. If we're fear-based in our thinking, I'll guarantee you that that is influencing your team's confidence, their spirit, how they're showing up.
I totally agree. What's your, I've got something I want to add to that, but what's your definition, or what's your thought around influence? How would you describe influence?
So, leadership is all about influence, right? Ultimately, our job is to create outcomes through the talent and energy of other human beings. So you're influencing day in, day out in terms of, again, those thinking, your team's mindsets, their behaviors, their capabilities, ultimately their results. Then obviously we're influencing our clients, we're influencing other stakeholders around us. So, fundamentally, influence is about impacting somebody else's thinking, decision-making, actions to ultimately achieve an outcome.
Yeah, and the reason I asked that is coming back to a word that you used before, which was observe. So for me, influence is creating change in you in order to create change around you.
Yeah.
And so that ability to create change in you, I liken it to, and the metaphor I use, I sit there and I picture this myself. I'm sitting on a bench in a park, and I'm also sitting on another bench in a park. And I'm observing myself on that other bench.
Yeah.
And I can get very honest with myself in that scenario.
Yeah.
And it's a case of, okay, girl, hand on heart, what are you putting out? What are the decisions that you're making or not making?
Yeah.
And how are you showing up as that future version of you that you want to bring forward to today?
Exactly. And that's a core capability in that self-mastery space, right? That observation ability, and then our capacity to make conscious, deliberate choices around that. So I can see myself on that other bench. I can see I'm being hesitant. I'm containing my potential. So now I'm going to step past the fears that are causing me to do that. And despite myself, I'm going to give this a go anyway. Right. And then that practice of actually stepping outside of that comfort zone is what starts to influence the unconscious thinking that is influencing how that version of you on that bench is actually showing up. And I believe this is a incredibly important capability in any area of life, right? In terms of how you're showing up at home and in your personal relationships, not just in the workplace.
And that's the journey that I've been kind of going on myself the past probably 18 months to 2 years. I've incorporated them in my book as one of the decisions, which is the decision of alignment. And that kind of comes into congruence. And so I think leaders, I think that's really important, the capability that you're putting that as a capability of self-mastery. That is totally the foundation. And it's a decision. That is a choice. But we are going to fall off. We are going to fall off the horse because we're human. But it is that practice that you mentioned of getting back into what I call the gap.
That's right.
I love this. I absolutely love this. So we spoke before about a leader the leader's title and their ability to influence the team. Where do you see that leaders make a mistake in getting that authority and that influence mixed up, and what's the cost?
I think the biggest mistake is not recognizing that your ability to influence somebody comes down to their willingness to let you, right? So I often ask leaders, you know, if someone is trying to give you feedback and you don't have trust or respect for that person, what's going through your head, right? And then I ask them to give me the polite versions, as you can imagine. You know, and it's everything from what's your real agenda, what would you know, wah, 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 wah. You know, the reality is there is a barrier to being open to hearing, to taking on board the feedback, doing something with it. So leaders who are relying on positional authority are never going to tap into the discretionary effort. They're never going to tap into the full extent of the potential within their group because of this barrier that people won't learn from them, won't lead by their example, ultimately won't be influenced to learn, to grow, to perform, unless there is a deep foundation of trust and respect in the relationship. So if you don't have trust and respect, good luck and may the force be with you. They're going to give you a compliant contribution. They're not going to give you everything they're capable of.
I agree. Superficial commitment. So is that, are you saying that is different to psychologically, someone feeling psychologically safe?
Psychological safety is part of it. Yeah, absolutely. If somebody doesn't feel psychologically safe, which again, to be clear what we're talking about here, you know, that's where I have a fear of harm by just being myself or speaking up or sharing my views or giving things a go, right? So I need to be psychologically safe as a starting point. Then I also need trust and respect. For example, let me backtrack and say a common example of a leader that doesn't have influence is actually somebody who's actually a really nice person, but the team don't have trust that they're capable of leading them well and making good decisions. So nice guy lacks competence, or you've got the other person who's really competent, but they're a bit of a jerk, right? So you actually need both. So you need to be psychologically safe and effective for people to truly sign up to follow you.
Yeah, absolutely. And those patterns of behavior, you know, I've identified within my field anyway, 6 of them. One of the, you know, the pleaser, or the one that's trying to fix. And I mean, the closer who's always jumping in and wanting to take over, or just the missing an action leader. It's like, I was supposed to have a coaching session with you. Where are you? You know, so that's the loss of trust.
Yeah, that's right.
Which of course is not influence at all.
No, so, that's right.
A couple of questions, I guess, on that regarding you. Like, we've both had moments of being able to influence. So you, I'm sure, in your ability to influence somebody, what's an example where you've had that ability, but you've actually chosen not to use it?
Oh, you're going to make me think hard here, Bernadette, because I'm not sure I have that much self-control.
Exactly.
So, you know, my kids always used to laugh. For our listeners, my name is pronounced Karen, but I often get called Karen. And when the whole "hang it on, Karen" thing started, my kids thought it was funny because it started off with, you know, Karen is a middle-aged woman with 3 kids, which is kind of me. But the other part about that was that, you know, Karens are always asking to speak to the manager, and my kids teasing me made me kind of go, maybe I do ask to speak to the manager too often. So yeah, I would really. I think a classic example, an example that has just popped into my head, is when another member of my team is taking the lead on something, and I can see that a different approach, or, even if I can't see, I actually just believe, right? Because for whatever reason, I believe a different approach is going to be more impactful. And in those moments, it's appropriate to not step into that space, because my team member, can't speak all of a sudden, needs to learn from their own experience.
Yes.
They need to make the mistake. They need to say something to a client, see the reaction and go, oh, okay, that didn't work for whatever reason, and then be able to learn from it.
Yeah.
So I think that's probably the best example that comes into my head, is where I had to step back and just hold it in.
Well, for me, it's exactly the same different scenario, that if I am coaching or mentoring or whatever, I have the answer.
Yes.
And it's like, zip it, girl. Like,
yeah.
Zip it. And
another
just
great example.
And said, so sorry to put you on the spot like that. You can clearly tell we have no set questions on the show.
No, it's perfectly fine. As you saw, it just took me a moment. I'm like, no, I think I do tend to share my advice pretty readily. But no, I think the point you raised around coaching is another great one, because what you're doing is robbing people of learning opportunities.
Yeah.
And if you're truly wanting to influence their growth and their confidence, every time you give them the answer, you're reducing that likelihood that they will get there quickly.
Absolutely, and that's an observation of me on the bench. That's me myself on the bench sometimes too. So leaders, I speak a lot about decisions, and it comes back to choice. Like you mentioned, we all have this opportunity to make a choice.
That's right.
And the influence gap is that space between a leader's intention and the impact that they make, which is what you said earlier. And in that space is decision, is choice.
Yes, that's right.
And so what's a choice that you have made as a leader that has been one of the hardest decisions that you've had to make?
Yeah.
And what did it actually cost you?
I think the example that immediately comes to my mind is at any given point where I've needed to part company with a team member, right? So that choice to actually say, no, this hasn't worked and it's not going to work. I think of leaders on a spectrum sitting between being too soft and too hard. And effective leadership happens in the center, where we have a healthy balance between head and heart decision making. We're having the tough conversations, but we're doing it with compassion and sensitivity. So I lean towards the too soft side as a human being, because I'm very high on empathy and kindness, right, in terms of what I value and what I hold myself accountable to. So, I don't easily give up on people.
Yes.
So those have been the hardest choices. But again, it's the self-coaching that becomes important in that moment, because I know as a professional, because obviously I give advice around doing that all day, every day. Well, not quite, thankfully, but you know what I mean? I know as a professional that sometimes that moment where somebody is told that, hey, this isn't working out, can actually be the best thing that ever happened to them. I've coached loads of people in their careers that go, that moment really caused me to start to self-examine and make better choices for myself. So I know that professionally, but my unconscious brain will go to, is this too hard? Is this unkind? And then having to, again, self-check, self-regulate, make the decision anyway, have the conversation anyway. So, that I always say to my client leaders, the day you find that easy is the day you probably need to check yourself that you might have gone a bit too far down the other side, but there's still necessary choices to make. So in my business life, I would say that's been the hardest. In my personal life, it's been around the choice to walk away from my birth family, as I refer to them now. People that I made the choice were no longer having a healthy influence or impact in my life, and having to choose and maintain a boundary, despite my heart going, I'm craving that relationship. Having to, again, self-check that and say, but is that healthy for you?
Yes. And I'm totally with you on that. I understand that personally as well. So as a sensei, and you have a team of people, there's a balance. So we're talking about that balance between the hard and the soft, but there's also the balance between developing somebody and pushing somebody.
That's right.
So where do you think leaders get that wrong?
I think most often, if I had to bring it right back to basics, leaders have that intention, but are not investing what they need to make it happen. So I'm still having conversations with leaders about why they should have a one-to-one regular meeting with a team member. And I'm still getting the pushback around, I don't have time. And my response to that is, then you don't have time to be a leader.
I agree.
If you're not engaging in regular one-to-one conversations with people, you're not creating the forum and the space to deliberately influence their learning and their growth. And that obviously then extends through to not having, again, the fundamentals around performance objectives and development goals that everybody's on the same page around. And then, operating as a coach. So again, we've been talking for a lot of years around the importance of leaders regularly enough putting the coaching hat on. And again, the big mistake is we get so busy doing our own doing that we're not deliberately enabling that learning, that success.
Yeah, and there's two parts. I mean, this is something I'm really big on. This is a decision of ownership. This is one of my decisions. It's very much around coach the human, not just the deal in the world of sales. Right. And so how do you coach the human? Because that is transformational. If you can get that right, that will change someone's life.
That's right.
And keep top talent and and grow the business if you understand, or if you have the intention to make that impact.
That's right.
And so CEOs, companies, cultures say that they are, or they have stated culture,
their values, and their posters,
whatever it is. But there is this disconnect, or there is this disconnect, for want of a better word, around what's actually driving results or killing results as well. Right. And you mentioned before the human spirit, which I'm so aligned with you there as well. And really tapping into what motivates your team outside the rah-rah stuff. Yeah. And when you consider the word motivate means motive for action. So what is it that makes your people want to come in on a Monday morning and hang around, I'm going back to the in-person days, hang around on a Friday afternoon? Like, what is it? So what do you see that those leaders that have really nailed it and dialed it in have over others that perhaps are just average?
Yeah. Look, if I start with the average people, it's because they decided on some values. They stuck it on a poster. They might have put it on a mouse pad or a screensaver or somewhere. And that's about the extent to which those values are actually lived. I would rather see a business not have their stated values than, because otherwise they're just broken promises every day. Oh, we value respect. And then leaders are yelling at people. Yeah. It's like, well, what's the point of that? So to the positive side of it, what great leaders recognize is the importance of creating connection, right? Where people actually feel part of it. They understand what the mission is. They understand how they make a difference. They're excited about making that difference because they like, value, and respect the people who are in charge. And that's not because the people in charge are pushovers or just give them everything they want. Again, as I said earlier, people don't have deep respect for leaders who are not capable, right? So when people want to be part of the mission, they believe in the leadership team that's taking them there, and it feels good to come to work because people are nice. We have a laugh. We take it seriously when we say, that respect matters. So even if we've got, for example, the high-performing salesperson that's bringing in all the revenue, but they're behaving badly and undermining the rest of the team's spirit, again, great leaders recognize that is a top priority, because the team spirit is like the fuel. You know, you cannot fly a plane and get it to reach your destination safely if you run out of fuel. And it's the same with the energy in your business. So again, great leaders make behavior matter. You know, they don't just talk about it, they actually follow through around the standard of people's mindsets and behaviors and the impact on the environment, and then ultimately the culture that's created.
What about numbers are really down and we have a hero on the team who is bordering on toxic, but very arrogant, very egotistical, but bringing in the numbers? What does a leader do then when they are losing others in the team?
Well, that's where they've got to make the tough decision. Do you believe your revenue numbers are a reflection of the business's culture, its capability, and that collective spirit of that sales workforce? Or do you think it's up to the single arrogant person? Right? Yeah. Because again, it's that short term versus the longer term. And I'm not lacking in empathy around the challenge. So I have a classic example of this where I was brought into a business. They had huge turnover in production. They had huge turnover in the sales team itself. They had stress claims and bullying claims from the client service team. I went in and did a review, and all roads led back to the sales manager who was behaving appallingly and bringing in 60% of the business's revenue. And when I interviewed this guy, his attitude was astounding. He actually said to me, such an arrogant posture. He's like, oh, I don't even have to try anymore. You know, like I just sit back and the deals come to me because everybody knows me. And so I went back to the CEO and I said, he's not even realizing his own potential. Okay, he's bringing in 60% of your current revenue. What would your revenue be if you actually had a really capable sales leader who was striving, who was knocking down doors, who was opening new opportunities and bringing their team with them?
Yeah, with them.
Right? So it took me 2 years to convince the CEO that there needed to be a moment in time where basically they draw a line in the sand and say, your behavior matters. So the CEO sat down with them. I joined the meeting. And the CEO says, we can't continue like this. Your conduct is not appropriate, blah, blah, blah. And the guy says, well, fine, you can have my resignation. And that was the moment, right? I'd coached the CEO to say, okay. I said, say nothing else.
Yeah.
So this statement's made. The CEO says, okay. And the sales guy goes, well, fine, I will think about that. And that was the moment that we knew we'd broken the back of that, because this guy believed that he was untouchable, and he needed to know that he was very touchable in order for his conduct to be different and in order for him to change. Yeah. And every time I tell that story, people most often ask me, what happened? And what happened was he stayed. He didn't walk out the door.
Oh, he did stay.
He stayed. The CEO invested in coaching with him. So we spent time working with him. Did he become perfect? No. Did he stop being a toxic waste dump? Yes. Right. So the business and their revenue numbers climbed.
Yeah. 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 You know,
it takes long answer to your question, but
no, great story, and such a common example as well. Yeah. And you know, it's courageous, having those courageous conversations that leaders, and this is like a decision of ownership. It's like you've got to own it. We talk about accountability all the time, but what happens when you have a decision that's on the table to be made? As as the CEO, how accountable are you to a decision that needs to be made, that's going to move the business forward, but maybe a little awkward or uncomfortable for you?
That's right.
Step into
scary, risky.
Yeah, risky. It's step into, I say, bring it on, uncertainty, bring it on. Look, this has been an amazing conversation. I have loved it, and I knew that I would love it, and I know that our listeners will love it as well. But before we go, I'm going to get people to find out how to get in touch with you and get your book, and I'll pop that in the show notes. But I also have what I call a rapid fire.
Okay, give us a go. Hopefully my brain's thinking quicker.
I think I've primed you.
All right, ready for it. I'm even sitting up straight for those watching on video. I'm like, right, I'm getting into my martial arts mode. I'm like, okay.
Well, here we go, karate. Okay. I've already asked you, what does influence mean to you? What's the definition, but what does influence mean to you personally? One word.
Enabling.
Enabling. Oh, that's good. I like that. That. Discipline or talent? Which one wins?
Discipline.
Well, being a third Dan black belt that you are, I would imagine discipline would be the answer.
Am I allowed to extrapolate on why?
Yeah, go on.
Or is it literally just what we're...
No, we're all breakers here. Go on.
Because in the martial arts, I have met thousands of people who can get to brown belt because they've got natural talent. Getting to black belt, getting to the Olympics, winning a gold medal, that takes discipline. So if you put in the context of true peak performance, discipline is going to win out over natural talent. Yeah.
Great explanation. Thank you for that. Sum up in one word the difference between a manager and a leader.
Influence.
Okay, that'll do. In the dojo, okay, what's one word for the moment that a student stops performing for you as the sensei and starts performing for themselves?
Empowerment. Or ownership was my other word. That's when I
like ownership. Ownership's one of my 5 decisions. So if every CEO that you have ever coached had one blind spot in common, what would that blind spot be?
Well, I want to say emotional intelligence. It's more than one word.
That's okay.
Can I say emotional intelligence?
Yeah,
I mean, it's not a blind spot, but it's a capability gap that all of us, I believe, have to continue to work on our EQ. Yeah,
absolutely. How can people get in touch with you and buy your books? On Amazon, I'm picking.
Yeah. So absolutely. Pardon me. You can reach out at our website, which is corporatedojo.com with the wwws. I'm never sure if we have to say that or not, but corporatedojo.com, on LinkedIn. And in terms of the books, on our website, you can grab a copy. And online retail bookstores are still stocking it as well.
Awesome. Karen Gately, it's been an absolute pleasure. I have loved it and can't wait to catch up.
Thank you. Appreciate it. So good to see you.
To everybody listening and watching, remember, influence is empowerment. Influence is discipline. Influence is so important for you as a leader today. So on that note, have an amazing week, and we look forward to seeing you at this time next week. Bye for now. That's a wrap on today's episode of The Influence Gap. If this resonated with you, share it with a CEO or a sales leader who you think needs to hear it. And make sure that you subscribe so that you never miss one single episode. If you are ready to close the gap between your message and the impact you want to make, come and find me at BernadetteMcClelland.com. I'll see you this time next week. Bye for now.